guys, my name's Hannah. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about these kind of two themes for 2025, and then whatever theme kind of resonates with you, we're going to give some messages for those themes, right? So 2025 is very much a year of cycles ending, yeah? And you might be seeing this around you. I'm definitely seeing it around me. Relationships ending, people leaving jobs, people moving from homes, people moving from cities, and just like emotional cycles as well. People being like, this doesn't serve me anymore, I'm starting to look at this and I want to change this, you know? So it's a big year. And the Scorpio full moon just really kind of highlighted that, because that's a very much a shadow time when we're like, we're looking at our shadow side, our shadows are coming up. So like that was quite a tough emotional space. Now we're coming in, we've just had Gemini new moon, we're coming into June, we're halfway through. If you're in the northern hemisphere, it is the summer solstice, and us in the southern hemisphere, it's the winter solstice. But like they're big portals, right? Big portals. So we're going to just look at some messages around this kind of time and what's like kind of coming in for us. But on the second track, for 2025, if you've already been kind of cutting away things that no longer serve you, maybe you've walked away from relationships or jobs. I know for me, I've walked away from jobs that no longer served me about 2.5 years ago, and I've really been looking at things around money and security around that. For those of you that feel like that, things might feel like they are escalating. Things are starting to accelerate. So you're actually starting to see concrete kind of rewards for the work you've been doing for the last few years, right? So that's kind of two tracks. So if you've already started cutting away things that no longer serve you and ending cycles that no longer serve you, you're going to be accelerating. So today it's going to be two messages along that. So if you resonate with feeling like, oh, my life does feel a bit like it's blowing up and I'm walking away from like, I've walked away from a big relationship, or I've decided to move house, or I've started to change career paths and go a completely different way, or I don't know who I am, you know. There was a little message I did the other day on a short, and it was like really funny because it was talking about the themes of 2025 and coming up in June. And I pulled the Tower, which kind of represents a full self-identity crisis, the ground coming out underneath you. You know, it's a big time. And then on the second message, which was pick a card, it was the 10 of Cups, which is like contentment and fulfillment. That's kind of the energy. It's like you're either going to be coming into a state where you're feeling like my hard work's paid off and everything's coming together, or you're going to be feeling like, oh my God, my life's blowing up. So think about what resonates with you, right? Think about what resonates with you in terms of that. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today, yeah? So the messages around that, like what's coming through, like what's the advice, you know? What's maybe a little heads up for things that you can take note? How can you handle it? You know, things like that. So I'm first going to focus on 2025 as being ending cycles. That's what I'm focused on as the first message. Today I'm going to use tarot, and then I'm also going to use my magical fairy cards, because we're entering Gemini. We've just entered Gemini new moon. You know, Gemini is it's very social. It's very exciting kind of energy. It's so different after Scorpio full moon, but it's very communicative. And these cards are very straightforward kind of instructions. So I'm going to use them as well. Now these cards all popped out. So let's see what we've got. So these are for the people. Oh, it's some energy. So these are for the people that feel like their life is blowing up, you know, that they're like, you know, you feel a little bit unsteady, you've possibly said goodbye to things that you've had in your life for a long time. And interesting. So this is that kind of message for you guys, yeah? So, first of all, we've got two queens, right? So then we've got it's really interesting. We've got two queens, we've got two aces, and we've got a 7. So there's themes of very much new beginnings, and the new beginnings allowing you to really step into some power. And then there's also this idea of like manifestation and progress, which is very much like a message of like keep going. So the message that's really clear here is that through these cycles ending, or feeling like things are blowing up, you're going to invite some new ideas and like epiphanies, and you're going to start seeing life in a different way. You're going to start processing it differently. You're going to start communicating differently. So this might be in terms of like, you're going to start putting boundaries up. You're going to start to nurture your inner child. And that is connected with putting boundaries up. You're also going to nurture maybe these new thoughts and ideas for the first time, right? You're not just going to ignore them. You're going to put energy into keeping them. And also the Ace of Cups, that's also like a new way of processing your emotions and your feelings and your creativity and relationships. So it could be that new relationships on the horizon by cutting away these either, cycles that don't serve you anymore, or saying goodbye to a person. There could be new love on the horizon that's much more suited to you. But everything's very budding. It's very budding, and it's really interesting, that kind of new beginning with the Queens and the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Wands, right? So it's like, I really feel like what's really tied into 2025 and cycles ending is very much saying goodbye to the new girl. Sorry, the good girl. I'm doing another video on this as well, but like the good girl is something that's really prioritized our outlook, especially for women, very much for men as well, good girl, good boy, but like the good girl especially, where we're very much like, yes sir, no sir, what else can I give you for free sir, like how else can I accommodate you sir. I'm just cooking lunch because my son's napping, so I'm trying to do 10 things at once. So I feel like this is very tied into it, right? So it's like we're starting, people that are, I feel like I'm probably more on the second track because I've been working through these things for the last 2.5 years, but like it has given me a new way, of the way I talk to people, the way I communicate. I'm much more honest with my feelings. No, I don't want to do that. And it's also opened up like fresh new love and creativity within myself. But it's very much been a track of saying goodbye to the good girl. And I think that these cards really say that. It's like allowing you to be more direct and bold in the way you communicate, cut out things that no longer serve you, and then maybe be gentler with yourself. So instead of like cycles that might be ending in your life, is that starting to shift the focus of taking care of others to taking care of yourself. The Queen of Cups, she can really hold all her emotion. She doesn't chastise herself for it, but that allows her to like overflow because she's so like loving and giving with herself. She blooms. And then the Queen of Wands is like, it's the ultimate saying goodbye to the good girl. It's like she's bold, she's authentic, she doesn't really care what other people think. You don't want her on your bad side, but it's like she's not afraid to step into her power. So I feel like in terms of life blowing up and cycles ending, it's a really positive thing. And we know that it's a positive thing, right? It's been spoken about that, like, as we're saying goodbye to cycles that no longer serve us, this is going to really benefit us and the greater collective, right? And I know that the majority of you that watch this are women. So it's like, as women like step into their power, and that's what another video I'm doing about the witch archetype and how important it is and it's fundamental in kind of the death of the good girl. As women start to process these cycles and start to like say goodbye to narratives around being good and kind and pleasing and having everyone like me and being the martyr, as we start to say goodbye to that, we're going to bring in a transformational energy around the way we communicate and the way we take action and the way we create and the way we love. These are really powerful things. But there's very much a message that is like, you've got to keep going, right? 7 is always a message of going against the wind and feeling exhausted, but it's there. So you've got to keep going, you've got to kind of roll with it. And what's really interesting is that your instructions are let go. As you surrender the need to control, your relaxed energy rapidly attracts your desires. So there's very much this idea that like you're in the wheel of fortune, right? And things are spinning and you don't know who you are, but it's like you're about to birth some really powerful archetypes. So let go, that's really the instructions. You've got to kind of let go and surrender and be tumbled around as a tumbleweed with the wind, and then allow this new person to come out. And there's also a little tip, this is what I mean about the fairy cards, a holiday. So this is just very much a message of like taking a retreat. I did a reading for another lady recently and she was going through all this as well. She just moved, after 20 years, she'd moved to a new city, to Melbourne, and she'd just been doing a healing course. So like big changes, saying goodbye to cycles, but also feeling really lost. But it came up in her cards as well to like take a break, you know, so maybe like book a little holiday, a little weekend retreat away, you know, and get into nature. And sometimes that can rejuvenate you and allow you to keep going on this path, right? So we're not seeing any towers or any devils, you know, we're seeing almost that like, you know, we're coming to the middle of the year. We're seeing that maybe the next half of this year might be about really starting to step into that new power, especially around the way you communicate, the way you action things, the way you think about things, and the way you're feeling things. You know, we're talking about air and water, you know, air is masculine, and water is feminine. So I also think that what we're seeing is we're starting to step away from like ideas of toxic masculinity and toxic femininity, and we're starting to balance that more, and we're starting to see that those divine energies sit in every person in the world, and that when they are balanced, this is when we're at our great power, you know. So when we're engaging the mind and processing things and thinking about things, and then also when we're able to feel things and be creative, you know, this is when we're at our great power. I've been reading lots of clients recently, and this really seems to be a theme that people feel like, oh, like there's a lot of relationships ending, a lot of should I leave my husband questions, a lot of I've just moved cities, I've just moved here, you know, so it's really, you know, in a bit of chaos. But then also there's real strength in these new beginnings, right? This is like, it's a good time, you know, and in the stars, there's some things moving around. I think Uranus is moving from an earthy sign to Gemini. Anyway, I'm not an astrologist, so don't quote me on that. But, you know, there's big movements, you know. So now this message is for the second people that feel like they've been doing that kind of work of cutting out cycles that no longer serve them, right? So maybe they've left a job that doesn't suit them, they've said goodbye to a relationship, they've already done that. They're a little bit ahead in that way. So they've already been doing that maybe 2 years ago. And now they actually feel like all that hard work, they're actually seeing that in the physical plane. So now they feel like, okay, now I feel like things are moving, and it might feel a little bit too fast and a little bit overwhelming, you know? So that's for these people, because if you've already cut that kind of energy out and you've been doing that work for a few years now, the energies are probably really pushing us forward, and that can be a little bit intimidating, right? You can feel a bit like, oh my God, you know, and sometimes sometimes our greatest, usually our greatest fears are what we most desire. You know, that kind of is like, it's been coming up a lot in my cards as well when I've been doing reads. People really desire true love, but it's also what they're afraid of. People really desire success, but it's also what they're afraid of. Whoa, okay, I'm not pulling as many today, but that's really interesting. So it's a big spread for these people. So this is a message for the people that feel more identified with that they've already had the upheaval, they've already had the tower. You know, for me, becoming a mother 2 years ago, moving from the hills back into the city, quitting my job, that was all things that happened around 2 years ago. So I've kind of been cutting out things that no longer served me, and I feel like now things are starting to accelerate. So that's for these people. So it's very interesting what we have here. So we have 3 major arcana cards out of a 4-card pool. So that's going to say that, yeah, it's like there's some really intense energy here. We've got Justice, we've got the Universe, and we've got the Wheel of Fortune, and we also have 8 of Swords. So the message here is very much like, at this time, you must find a balance between controlling your fate, so you know, chasing your dreams and manifesting your dreams and going out to get what you want and really engaging that new life you want, with also the fact that like you're not in control of everything, right? Remember to balance that. So like things might be feeling really great at the moment and you feel like all your hard work is paying off, but balance that with the fact that it will spin back around. So I think it's really this, to like find that balance in that, like really going forward and then coming back. And then you've also pulled the Universe, which is like, we are capable, I've said this a lot, but we are capable of so much more than we think. And I think this is I pulled this at the top. So this is like almost like a connection to the universe. Maybe you're starting to step into your power and realize that, oh, I am really powerful and the universe is here for me. And I can get my greatest desires if I'm plugged in and I trust and I surrender. Like, you're starting to see that comes with it. And I think justice is very much like a balance as well. It's always about balance. It's scales, it's Libra. But like, when you do the hard work and you surrender and trust, it comes together in a cycle. You know, that's really what manifesting, what calling in different timelines is, what following your dreams are. As you take leaps of faith and you do the hard work and then you surrender, you see that things start to come together. And that's obviously what you're seeing now, right? Down below where I pulled the card, there's 8 of Swords, which is kind of denoting to there might still be some negative thinking that is holding you back from your full potential, right? So 8 of Swords is very much a card engaging in negative thought patterns that no longer serve us, but that like you are ultimately in charge of and responsible for, right? So it's like the person sabotaging your dream life is you and your mind. So this is just a little bit of a message to like keep on top of that, and maybe think that like, if you do feel like you've started cutting out things years ago and some things feel like you can't really find your footing, there might be because there's still some negative thought patterns about not feeling good enough, about chastising yourself and feeling like, oh, I don't work hard enough, I'm not doing enough, it will never work. That's still kind of sitting there. And then for your fairy cards, you've got spring. So your desires fully manifest as the flowers begin to bloom. So that's really just a message of time, you know, and both cards have said there's a message of time, like things have to be allowed to have time to unravel. And then the other instruction is marriage. So the fairies join you in celebrating wedding bliss. So this can mean like, obviously like practical things like maybe you're going to meet someone soon, or you've met someone soon, or marriage is on the horizon for you. And this is like obviously it's a beautiful thing for this in this new phase for you, and that maybe it's moving really fast, but it's like something that's like here. Maybe you're celebrating someone else's marriage. Maybe your new purpose in role is doing something within love, within the love space. But also it's a union, right? It's a union of love. It's a union of the masculine and feminine in any form, 2 men, 2 women, whatever. But it's like those principles of like, we all have that in us, and that's what's joining up. So I feel like this is also a little bit of message of that, the work you've been doing and the cycles you've cut off has really allowed you to step into your wholeness. Everything we create, everything we do, everything we see is like a mirror of ourselves, right? So it's like, as I said before, the cycles that are cutting out in terms of toxic masculinity and toxic femininity, I feel like marriage in its like divine, in its divine place is this beautiful union of that. You know, if you look at it like the union of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, you know, this divine masculine and this divine feminine, but that's like within ourselves, right? I really see this in people that have started to do the work before. I see this real beautiful union of divine masculine and divine feminine people. Friends of mine that are like trying to pull more out of their masculine and get more into their feminine. Men that are trying to pull more out of their masculine and get into their feminine. They're trying to balance out, right? And the world's very unbalanced. And the more balanced we are within ourselves, the more balance we'll see in our world, right? So we are mini microcosms. So it's like, that's what's reflected in our world. You know, the biggest lie we've been told is that the feminine principle is weaker than the masculine principle. And that's why we're all probably weighed heavier in our masculine. But we can't be like that, right? The feminine principle is so important. And I think that is a message in here, that like, the cycles that we've been cutting out is really coming into this balance, and that's what you might be finding now, and that's why things might be coming really together. That's why you feel like the universe, and she knows that like she's the world and the world is her, that the world is here for her, that she's stardust, you know, and that the world and the higher good and the angels and God and everything, it wants what's best for you. So I feel like this message is that you feel very connected to the higher power, and that's why things have been, they're escalating. You know, it's like now you're realizing that like you have this great power, right? I'm going to do a video on the witch archetype and just breaking down the stereotypes about the witch, but why embracing the witch archetype for everyone is really fundamental in saying goodbye to the good girl, and how saying goodbye to the good girl opens far more many doors than catering to her. Me saying no over the last 2.5 years to jobs and stuff that I don't want has opened far more many doors to what I do want than just being yes, yes. And that's kind of what the good girl, good boy is complex. You know, it's yes, yes, yes. Anyway, I hope this video served you. If you like it, click the little thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.